news in Silicon Valley. Not that you care, but bear with me because it's good news, sort of. Elon Musk has decided that he might not be the best CEO of Twitter.
Shocked and stunned.
Considering it's not going that well. He still owns it, but he's actually hired a CEO now to stop him from making Twitter so much worse. And she's a woman. The new CEO of Twitter is Linda Yaccarino. And it is worth celebrating because it's worth noting that only about 5% of big bosses in tech companies are women. But also, it's worth noting that women are much more likely to be appointed leaders of businesses like Twitter when things aren't going that great. You might remember on Mamamia Out Loud how we used to talk about the shit skirt, which was the mantle you are handled to do a job that no one else wants. And in particular, we talked about it with Theresa May, the British Prime Minister, who was handed the mess that was Brexit, the big smelly turd that was Brexit, and smeared all over her skirt that she pulled on as PM. It's also called the glass cliff, a job that no one wants or an item of clothing that no one else will wear because it stinks so much. Often it's seen that the powerful men who are jockeying around big dick swinging jobs will back away when they start to smell that shit or see the cliff looming in the distance, and that opens a space for other people. So anyone who isn't a dick-swinging alpha man, so women and also minorities, this obviously applies to as well, to sneak through. And if you're viewing it through rose-tinted glasses, you'd go, this is your big chance. You know, this is your big chance to come on in and show that you can do it. But what very often happens is that the woman will tip over the edge of the cliff and the dick swingers will all blame her for what went wrong, close ranks, and then get on with things being exactly as they were. Now,
yes,
there's a counterpoint of view in this recognised phenomenon. And
I have a question. Does the woman taking it know it's a cliff?
Well, I would imagine that if you're about to be made the CEO of Twitter,
or become the Prime Minister of the UK,
become the Prime Minister of the UK,
also, if you're unaware of what's going on with Elon Musk and Twitter, you may be under the world's largest rock.
So
exactly.
True.
I think you do know it's a cliff. But and there are some examples. For example, Jacinda Ardern was seen as a glass cliff appointment because Labour's polling was in the toilet and the leader before was terrible, and she turned it all around like the scrappy little heroine that she was and became the world's most famous leader. But that's rare. However, there is one more optimistic way of viewing this, and this is what I'd love to talk about. Some people say that another reason why women are more likely to get the job at this time is because they're better at crisis management. That they are better at taking a difficult, like call it change management too, don't they?
Yeah.
Taking an organisation and using their emotional intelligence to turn it all around. What do we think, Mia?
I think that's actually a really good point, because I think when there is a crisis, some people could say the hunting instinct that is traditionally male is helpful because it's focused. You got to meet and you've got to take down the mammoth basically. But in many cases, a crisis for a company will be from a business sense, like with or a political sense, like with a political party or with a massive publicly listed company that was bought for $44 billion and is now worth about $8 billion. Well done, Elon. It's actually very complex and very nuanced. There's not one single thing that needs to happen. There's a number of things. And so communication or gathering information and bringing people along with you, which is a traditionally female qualities, is more useful in that instance.
They call them soft leadership skills. They call them soft leadership skills. And they say that hard leadership skills are data, targets, get that thing. Soft leadership skills are people management, basically.
But Claire, do you think that the good side of it also is that if it doesn't work, it can't be more broken? Like Twitter, apart from actually just crashing and not being online anymore, things can't get that much worse. The only way is up. So is it actually a really good time to come in and be the boss?
Well, I think when you talk about the percentage of women who are the head of Fortune 500 companies, I think there's some crazy stat that there's more dudes called John than there are women. So we know that women struggle to get into these positions in the first place, right? So if you have a Stephen Bradbury moment and everyone else who's a man in front of you falls over, so you have the opportunity to get in there. There is something to be said about women being in those positions in the first place. Like we talked about Mindy Kaling needing to be skinny to get on the front of a magazine, right? It's kind of the same thing, that women have to wait for a man to fail in order for them to be considered, right? Because otherwise they're invisible behind that BDE, as you talked about, Holly. So there is something in being able to get there in the first place. But when you get there, if you don't Jacinda Ardern that thing, then you are a scapegoat, and then that leaves a legacy for all the women behind you who then only use that as an example and say, look what happens when a woman's in charge.
Yes. Look what happened when we gave those people who are always saying they want to turn a turn. Nothing was good, was it?
But no one blames Theresa May for Brexit being a mess, or for Britain to being in a state now, do they?
Well, I think if you think about this, the British Conservative Party have been in charge of Britain now for 12 years, I think. Might be longer than that, in fact. And the country's in a right mess. But look at Theresa May. Was Brexit in particular was hung on her. That's not so much of an issue anymore. Then Liz Truss, another glass cliff.
God, I almost forgot about
3
Liz.
minutes.
What about her? The lettuce Prime Minister.
The latest Prime Minister.
The one who lasted as long as an iceberg in the fridge. What was hung on her, and she did make things worse, let's be honest, although, you could argue that there was no way to salvage that, was the economic state of Britain. Now Rishi Sunak isn't making anything better, but he's got a bit of clear air because those things are out of the way, right? And, well, out of the way to a point. And so you could argue that those two were glass cliffs and they went over the edge of it, and things aren't necessarily better, but those particular crises could be hung on those two women.
Isn't it better
Gender might have nothing to do, probably has nothing to do, of course, with any of those performance issues or the issues in Britain. But if you can, if a woman will put her hand up for a job that no one else wants because she knows how hard it is to get in, then I think it's that thing of
But then that's an opportunity. That's a good thing.
Well, it's an opportunity if it's a good thing, but not if the whole process is broken anyway, right? Because as Claire says, the Jacinda Ardern it is a very rare thing, because probably systemically you're not going to succeed and one person isn't going to make that much difference. For example, in Elon Musk's version of Twitter, is one woman going to really make a difference?
Well, the problem there, it would be very different if
Elon
left.
Musk, yes.
But the problem there is Elon Musk, and he's still the owner. So her hands, I mean, the thing is that everyone's going to know who she is. She's going to, I think this will open up so many more opportunities for her. It'll be bloody interesting, if nothing else. But then having said that, when I chose to go to a job in a male-dominated environment, I remember saying those exact words to myself. If nothing else, it'll be very interesting, because it was at a really, really difficult time. When I went to Channel 9, it was an incredibly tumultuous, terrible time at Channel 9. Glass cliff. And I fell off the glass cliff, because I remember saying to myself, at least it'll be interesting. And it was just awful. I hated every second of it. But I shouldn't have taken that job.
But also,
that was also on me.
One person can't fix a completely broken thing, right? That's not the reality.
Particularly when they're not the boss.
So it's really scapegoating is what it is.
Yeah.
And you might Jacinda Ardern it. You could argue with hindsight that the awful catastrophes that happened under her leadership gave her an opportunity to show how brilliant she was, and maybe if she'd have lived through more boring times, then that might not have happened in the same way.
All Linda really has to do is reverse the legacy blue tick, and all the celebrities will be happy, and then maybe she'll go some way to actually fixing the bin fire that is Twitter. Because Elon, holy Moses, mate, like, for someone who claims to be an incredible businessman, he is the major failure in all of this. So if it is not hinged on him and it's all put on Linda's shoulders, then that says more about us as a society looking at who the failure is in this system than on who exactly is responsible for taking down Twitter, because we all are 100% know that it's Elon.